Gerry, you ready?
Yeah, I'll just get a couple of wee notes just on.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, let's see.
You said last November that Enda Kenny should tell the Troika to bugger off. Do you stand by that view?
Yes, I think that we have seen that vindicated by the representative of the IMF who was here recently, who said that the government had an enormous mandate. I'm paraphrasing what he said, but he basically said that the government acquiesced to the Germans and to Brussels, and that it should have stood its ground, and that's what it should have done. Whatever would have come out of it, it would have been better than the unsustainable debt that we have. You see, and I think the price that's paid by people here sometimes is invisible. It is on hospital trolleys. It is on 500,000 people scattered throughout the world. It is in terms of all of those cuts to people's social protections, whether it's child benefits or carers allowances and all the rest of it. And you know, it obviously doesn't affect the government. They can just award themselves and their special advisors with breaches of the cabinet guidelines. So that's, you know, they didn't do any negotiations whatsoever. Just reflect back. When I was putting this to the Taoiseach before he would go to a council meeting, he said...
Can I just put it to you, though, that they did negotiate in terms of the lower interest rate, in terms of changing the promissory note arrangement. But I also just want to put to you, say, the situation in Greece at the moment. Greece and Alexis Tsipras, since he has become the Greek Prime Minister, has said that Greece will honour all of its debts to the ECB and the IMF. And he said that ending austerity and kickstarting and growth in no way entails that we will not fulfil our loan obligations. So Greece is not looking for a debt write-down or a debt write-off. Is that the right approach, do you think?
Well, first of all, let me just remind you, every time the Taoiseach went off, when he was being encouraged by me to negotiate, he was saying, we will not have defaulters stamped upon our foreheads. Now, this was in marked contradiction to what he said during the election. We never said that all the debt should be.
You said that some of it should.
Yes, the private banking debt. I mean, let's rehearse again. 191 people owned 62 billion of the private banking debt. They should have had to pay that. That should have been dealt with within the private banking sector, right up to the European Central Bank. It should not have been put upon your shoulders, upon your family's shoulders, upon the taxpayers' shoulders. It was private. Now, of course, the sovereign debt, that's a different matter entirely. Of course we have to pay for that, and we've always made that clear, and that's why we produce every year an alternative budget to reduce the deficit in a way which is socially responsible and fair.
Okay, but just on debt write-off, I mean, Greece is not seeking any sort of debt write-off at the moment. That's the right approach, isn't it?
Well, it's up to them. It isn't up to me to tell the Greece government what to be doing, because it isn't a Greek issue. It's a European issue.
You're saying that Enda Kenny should tell the Troika to bugger off. Greece is now engaging with the Troika, whereas previously it said it wouldn't. It's now come in. Syriza has come into government and has said, we need to engage with the Troika, we need to get a better deal for Greece, but we need to do it in a way in which we honour all of our obligations. Well, that's the right approach, isn't it?
Well, again, I'm not going to, you know, the negotiations are ongoing.
But I'm trying to get from you, if Sinn Féin were in government, because you know you want to be in government, what approach would you take?
Well, first of all, it's no longer an issue. No, we are where we are. The matter for us is to try and get a mandate which would be against austerity, which would be about stimulating the economy, which would be to deal with all of these issues. But the job that we would have to do, or indeed any government would have to do, and which our government refused to do, is to face up to this as a European issue. It is not a Greek issue. It is not an Irish issue. It is a European issue. And where we become befuddled in this is the way that the government meshed the private banking debt with the sovereign debt. Now, that has now been changed. What we were advocating for all of those years is now European policy, where they have separated out these two debts, and also where the government has made a huge mess of it in terms of claiming, I think it was June 2 years ago, that there was a deal for retrospective recapitalisation of the Irish banks. They haven't even asked for that. They haven't even went forward and asked for that.
Are you disappointed that Alexis Tsipras has adopted a different approach?
No, I'm not at all. I think they're doing very well. I think, first of all...
The rhetoric has changed, has it not?
Well, don't worry about...
From say we will not engage with the Troika to engaging with the Troika.
Well, that's a matter for them to work.
Do you think that's breaking a promise?
No, well, that's when I didn't know we were going to come here to talk about Greek politics, but I mean that's.
I did inform your spokesperson last night that we were talking about the Greek
but that's
situation.
a matter for them to work out their own tactical approach. I think they're doing very well. There's a focus now on dealing with this unsustainable debt, whether they will succeed or not in getting all of their negotiation points. We know from negotiations you don't always get everything that you want, but they will certainly get a better deal, I would presume, as a result of this, because they are taking a stand on these important issues. And what we can't hide from and what we can't walk away from is that it is unsustainable to expect the type of social consequences, the inequality. A third of our children living in consistent poverty, every budget being seen as being regressive, as increasing the wealth for those at the upper echelons and making the poor poorer. The people who worked all their lives, who put money away to try and look after themselves, all of that destroyed, their children scattered throughout the world. That is too high a price to be paid for a debt which is not sustainable. Well, it will cost 141 million euros to scrap domestic water charges. The government are funding water charges from 4 sources: from commercial, from domestic, from borrowing, and from the exchequer. We have said we will not impose an extra domestic water charge upon the people. In our last budget, alternative budget submission, we actually set aside 300 million. But given the way the government has put forward this, it's almost like a scam, this water conservation grant where they're giving people, it's yet to be seen whether that will be viable or not, while they're giving people 100 euro to pay off their bill. The sum total comes down to 141 million.
Okay, and you say you would recoup some of the 539 million that's been spent on the installation of water meters. How much of that would be recouped, and how would it be recouped?
Well, first of all, you would stop water metering. So that's how it would be recouped. You would save the money.
The money's been spent, has it not, on installing hundreds of thousands of meters?
Well, you're not going to recoup that money, and I don't see this is our outline of how we're going to deal with this. And
well, your finance spokesperson told us last week that you would recoup some of the 539 million euro from scrapping the water, or from scrapping the installation of water meters. So I'm just wondering.
Well, we will save the money. The government have allocated monies to pay for that. We will not be able to recoup the 75 million which they give to the consultants when they set up Irish Water. But surely if you're not going to be charging people an extra domestic water rate, then you don't need to be metering.
Okay. You acknowledged in the Dáil recently that you weren't great at maths. Now, I think you were kind of joking, but I mean, you know, Fine Gael and other parties made a bit of political capital out of that. Do you think, are you good at maths?
Well, you see, my remark was in the context of the Taoiseach stopping a debate and disallowing a debate and saying that more people would be able to talk by virtue of them doing that. So I was being ironic. I don't need to be good at maths. I'm good at politics.
As the leader of a political party?
I'm good at politics.
The economy is the biggest issue in the next election. You don't need to be good at maths, you think?
No, I'm saying I don't need to be good at maths as a politician. What I do need to be good at is the politics of what we want to do. So what we want to do is to bring about a new type of Ireland which is based upon decent public services. So for me, it's a mathematical injustice that we have a health service that has record numbers of people on trolleys, which has record numbers of people not being given elective surgery within 6 months, which can't send citizens home who are medically discharged because it isn't safe. Now, for me, it's very simple justice, but it's also good mathematics and it's good economics that you should look after all of those people because it will cost the state more in the longer term. It's also good mathematics and good economics to have people that work in meaningful jobs with decent terms and conditions. It's also good to have our young people back home working in the place that they were born in, if that's what they want to do, as opposed to be forced out of the place.
Okay. Gardaí said in November they'd been given the names of more than 30 alleged IRA sex offenders thought to have been moved. to the Republic. When you made your statement to the Gardaí recently, as you said you did on Morning Ireland earlier this week, did you give them any of those names?
Yes.
Okay. How many?
I'm not prepared to say them.
Okay. Are you confident that you've given Gardaí all of the information you have in connection with the alleged abuse of people within the Republican movement and of alleged abusers that have been moved to the Republic?
Yes, and if I get any other information on that or any other category of abuse or of criminality, I will also give that to the Guards. I meet the Guards reasonably often. I'm duty bound as a citizen and also as a public representative to do those duties, and that's what I do.
You've been damaged by all of this controversy, haven't you? You know, yourself politically, your reputation has been damaged by this, hasn't it?
Well, explain to me how.
Do you not think that, I mean, the polls would say that your personal rating has gone down in the last few months because of your connection to this?
Well, I stood as a TD.
In 2011, 4 years ago.
Okay, well, God spares me if I get through the Sinn Féin convention, I'll stand the next time.
Okay.
So we'll see what the people say, but just look, you can only do your best. Yeah. First thing that has to be said is that a huge injustice was done to Maria Cahill. That's first of all. So I tried to deal with that compassionately and sensitively. The second charge, which was made by our political opponents, was that Sinn Féin conspired in this, covered up in this, and I covered up in this. That is untrue. So we robustly rejected that scurrilous smear against our party.
Makes that contention as well, and you reject that completely as well.
Well, I've already done that, time out of number.
Did it ever cross your mind throughout all of this to give up or to perhaps step down as Sinn Féin leader because of the extent to which it was distracting from Sinn Féin's attempts to advance itself as a political party in this country?
Well, I don't think it distracted, and I think that Sinn Féin is of secondary importance when you're dealing with an issue as serious as that of child abuse. So we go about our business, we do our work. I never stopped doing my work for 1 second of all of that time. We continue to do our work. We have fought a very, very good local government election. We've fought an outstanding European Parliament election. We're now get more votes than any other party on this side. And we're fighting an election at the moment in the north. We'll fight one in the Assembly next year. And if this government had the courage to call an election, we'd also be fighting one in this jurisdiction between now and 2016.
Owen O'Brien, a party strategist, a councillor out in South Dublin, he said last July that Sinn Féin is nowhere near ready to go into government. Where's the party now? Is it ready?
Yes, but we need a mandate. What we need to do is to persuade the largest number of people possible that Sinn Féin in government on an anti-austerity, pro-United Ireland ticket, committed to public services, to reversing what this government has done and what its predecessor did, committed to a fair recovery, which assists everyone, pro-business, pro-enterprise, pro-rural Ireland. We need to persuade people that they should vote for us, and that's what we'll do.
Okay. But in terms of strategy and in terms of policies, you think your party is ready to go?
Yes.
If there was an election call in the morning, you'd be ready to go, and if you got enough seats, you'd be ready to go into government.
Yes, we're still ongoing in terms of conventions and so on. I mean, even my own convention in Louth has yet to be held. But yes, in terms of being match fit, we're ready for the challenge. Whether people give us the mandate or not is the big question. And it's only when you get the sense of that mandate, how much strength you have, how well you could negotiate a programme for government, who might you negotiate that with. All of that is in the people's hands. The election is the people's day. The people decide. When all the spin and all the rhetoric and all the false promises and all the pot rabbit platitudes are finished with, the people will have their say, and I would very, very clearly be saying to, as well the rest of the Sinn Féin leadership, give us the opportunity to do the type of changes that are needed done here and which we have with others done in the north.
Okay. One of the problems I think that has emerged with Sinn Féin electorally is, and we saw this in Dublin West and Dublin South West, is your party doesn't transfer very well. So people would vote for a Sinn Féin candidate, but they wouldn't necessarily give a Sinn Féin candidate a second preference. What's the party doing to tackle that? I mean, one thing that springs to mind perhaps is that you talk about forming an anti-austerity government after the next election. Would it not be sensible now to start talks with people on the on the left and the far left about, you know, some sort of transfer pact or some sort of agreement going into the next general election.
Well, it's interesting that we lost the seat in Dublin South West because Fine Gael transferred to the anti-austerity candidate. They obviously saw him as less of a challenge and less of a...
Surely they should have transferred to you, you know, should they not?
Well, for Fine Gael to transfer to us would be quite miraculous.
Yeah.
But that to one side, my main point is that some of these other parties do engage in tactical voting, and that's all part of the game of politics, and I don't have any complaint about that. But I'm just pointing out with clarity that the strength of Sinn Féin and the growth of Sinn Féin will see these conservative parties voting for the most, giving their preferences to the most unlikely candidates. Now, of course, we want to be more transfer for friendly, and I don't dwell in opinion polls, so I'm not going to say that now. But you can rest assured that so many people were prepared to vote for us, and a lot of our people did top the poll. But had they not topped the poll, that others would have given second and third preference to us. There's a logic if the party is on the rise, that it isn't just in first preference votes, that it's also in second and third preference votes. And I also know from my own experience, canvassing on the doorsteps, that people will say to us, we can't give you a number one, but we'll give you a two, or we'll give you a stroke.
But are you getting more of that?
Yes.
Okay. But do you not think that a pact of some sort with, say, the Socialists would be, or the Anti-Austerity Alliance would be in Sinn Féin's interest?
Well, first of all, we do want to define common cause wider than the left, because the left in Ireland is notoriously narrow, and some of it is very, very sectarian. I mean, we had an issue here just last week where the Anti-Austerity Alliance organised a protest over the arrest, but wouldn't allow Sinn Féin on the platform, wouldn't allow the trade union movement on the platform, wouldn't even allow other parties on the platform.
Did you want to be on the platform?
Yes, we actually had nominated Sean Crowe, a Dublin TD for the area which was most badly affected, to be on the platform. So some of these folks don't want to be in government, they have no interest in being in government, but the serious players, of course.
Who are the serious players?
Well, I made, and I've been doing this for some time now, a call for people to develop a charter, a citizens' charter, which would, you know, itemise those broad core values that we would like to be governing our society with. And that's wider than the left. It's wider than the trade union movement, of why I welcome those trade unions who are supporting the Right to Water campaign. And it's a very good example of sort of a mass movement around a stated objective.
But I'm talking politically. I mean, say maybe Shane Ross or someone like that, perhaps.
Well, I think we can tease all of that. I think we can tease all of that out, and we do intend to continue to develop this notion of a programme for recovery or a citizens' charter, and that doesn't necessarily mean, you know, preferred voting packs. It might mean that, but what it does mean is that someone who's involved in sporting organisations and tidy town competitions, in the voluntary sector, and the cultural movements, the people who are involved in the arts, people who are trying to defend rural Ireland, as well as people in the political parties and the trade unions, could nationally, and I mean nationally in the real sense of the entire island, come in behind certain principles. And we will develop that in the upcoming period. We're going to deal with this at our next National Officer Board meeting to see how we can make more progress in that. And it's about empowering citizens. It can't be left to the political elites or to the political class. It has to be as wide as possible. And the big thing about the water charges, the anti-water charges protest, was the number of people. I met them who told me they'd never done a protest in their lives. And that became a catalyst, and none of us, not the media, not the political parties, had a sense of that sort of general uprising that took place around that issue.
Okay. You have said you're not focused on this idea of becoming Taoiseach or wanting to be Taoiseach, but on a personal level, it's a very simple question. Is it something that you'd like to do?
Well, it might be a simple question, but I'm not arrogant enough to come in here and take out of the Sinn Féin party for granted, or more importantly, take the pundits, or sorry, take the punters, the electorate for granted. I could have been the First Minister or the Deputy First Minister in the North. I had other work to do. I thought Martin McGuinness was better suited to doing that job than me. So look, let's not spend too much time
but I'm just asking,
speculating.
do you want to be Taoiseach, Gerry?
No, I have no personal desire to be Taoiseach. I'm an activist. I want to be the best activist I can be.
Something that you'd like to do at some point in the future?
No,
So you're actually ruling it out, really, aren't you?
I'm not ruling anything in or out except the need for Sinn Féin.
You just said it's not something that you're particularly interested in doing.
Well, there's lots of things I'm not interested in doing. I mean, I'm only here out of a sense of duty, even though you're a charming company. So, I mean, there's lots of things we could all be doing. But the point I'm making is there are two phases. Let's get the biggest mandate possible for Sinn Féin. Let's not get carried away with ourselves. Let's not make Eamon Gilmore type assertions. Gilmore for Taoiseach. You won't hear anybody going about Sinn Adams for Taoiseach.
Do you think Mary Lou McDonald would make a good Taoiseach?
I think a whole team of our people would make far better Taoiseach than the one that we have at the moment.
Like who?
Well, like Mary Lou McDonald and others.
Such as?
Well, I'm not going to get into all of that because we're back into the same thing. The people haven't voted.
Have you been since 2001?
That's a personal matter.
Okay.
I consider this to be sort of confessional.
So you're not going to answer that, right?
Well, you're going to give me a blessing at the end. And no penance.
Have you been, no?
That's a personal matter.
Okay. Are you giving up anything for Lent, or is that a personal matter as well?
I have decided there are 6. We're on the 6th floor. So I think there are 12 flights of stairs. Just pardon my math. And I have decided that I will not use the lift, but I will walk the 6 flights of stairs. Like everybody else, I'm probably using Lent as a device to get slightly fitter.
Okay. Your Twitter account finally is drawing an increasing amount of attention. Is it making you more huggable? Is it part of a strategy within Sinn Féin to make you more of a huggable politician because people, particularly in Middle Ireland, don't really perhaps trust you because of your past and are a bit scared of the idea of voting Sinn Féin?
It actually has very little to do with Sinn Féin at all.
Has anyone in Sinn Féin told you to tone it down a bit?
Some may, at different times, have some doubts about some of the things that I write, and I was just reading Michael Scott of the Waterboys this morning saying that he also gets into trouble on Twitter, so it's part of the medium. Look, the party came forward and said to me, I didn't even know what Twitter was, you should go on Twitter. I was on Facebook up to that time. And then I looked at it and I said, well, look, well, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it myself. I'm not going to get anybody else to do it. So, of course, I do put up political stuff, and I do put up statements, and if I'm doing something in the course of the day, I do tweet that. But the ones that catch the attention are simply me tweeting what I'm thinking at that particular time.
And it's not part of some great Sinn Féin strategy to make you more huggable?
Do
you think it makes you more huggable?
Well, you know I'm very huggable. And you and I have a long experience of hugging.